right, guys. Welcome on another episode of Appetite for Collectibles. We're literally recording this super late at night. I never do these late night ones, but I had to do it with Tom himself. But guys, we have Tom Spina from Regal Robot and Tom Spina Designs. What's going on, Tom?
Thank you very much for that intro, and I appreciate you, staying up late and getting this one in. It gets tough for me to find time during the day, and it's funny because I'm like all sacked out and watching TV with my wife and stuff, and then it's just like, oh crap, I gotta like kind of wake up and do a podcast now. Let's go, like,
I know, like I was watching like Jaws 1, finished like half of it, and I was like, wait a second, I was like, I gotta drink coffee, and I like drank
right.
the coffee.
It's Dr. Pepper stat, like let's we got to get some energy going. That's all right. We'll start talking about Star Wars or something and I'll perk right up. So I'll be good. And honestly, Jaws too, which is just like that's amazing. It doesn't make sense to me that that's 50 years right now.
I know. I was having that conversation with a coworker because she saw my Tumblr at clinic and it's a whole Jaws sticker. And she was like, "Why do you have a Tumblr for Jaws?" And I said, "Today's the 50th anniversary." And she's like, "50 years?" She's like, "No way." And I was like, "Yeah." And I showed her everything. I showed her that the Daily Jaws was doing something on YouTube. I showed her
Oh my
everybody's
God.
Instagram and she was like, "That's incredible." And I said, "Yeah." I'm like, they turned 50 this year. I go, The Exorcist is turning 50 this
Oh
year.
wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. And then I said, Star Wars is turning 50 in 2 years. And she's like, "That's crazy." She's like, "How time flies." And I said, "I know." I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
imagine the people who went and actually saw this in theaters.
Right. It's like, how dare you, time, continuing to march in one direction nonstop like that? Ah, the worst.
And you know what's funny? So in the beginning so Jaws right now is streaming on Peacock. And
Oh,
in the
okay.
beginning of it, Steven Spielberg did like a whole intro thanking fans. It was like a whole special that he did. And the one thing that I love that he said was made the film not knowing that in 50 years he would be celebrating its success. And I feel like with movies like Jaws, The Exorcist, that's another favorite horror movie of mine. And with Star Wars, those movies turning 50, I would have, I think all those people never thought that they would be
Yeah.
celebrating this success. And as fans, we're just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the when you start getting into sequels and stuff like that, everybody starts to think about legacy and longevity and all of that. But these first ones, like, yeah, nobody knew. Everybody, yeah, I've been so lucky to talk to all these people that worked on Star Wars and stuff like that, and some of it involved in some of the stuff we've been doing. Uh and it's like none of them knew. They're like, no, it's a space movie. It was fun. We liked what we were doing, but like, yeah, and that's the American people. The British people didn't even like what they were doing for the most part. But it's just funny, yeah. And then 50 years later, it really it's one of those things where I think of like what the Wizard of Oz was back at the time, and even still is. You know, it's what do they call it? Evergreen, right? Like
Yeah.
it's this evergreen property that you just sit here and you go that you can put that movie in, and I've and it doesn't feel like it's been 50 years. That's the amazing part. The thing that always gets me is watching other sci-fi from the time. Looking at something like Logan's Run, which came out, maybe a year before, was probably shooting very close to the same time because Star Wars had more of a post-production. Uh,
Hmm.
um, you just sit there and it's so striking, the difference between those two films, the look of them, the feel of them, all of that. And obviously, look, I know some of that's intentional and story based and whatever, but like one of them looks completely 70s and the other is nearly timeless, other than maybe the sideburns, which I'm totally down for. I think I freaking love Star Wars sideburns. I feel like that's one of those things where, whatever I'm watching in The Mandalorian and they have people playing British guy, like the Imperial officers, um, if the Imperial officer isn't doing a British accent and doesn't have sideburns, it feels like a fan film to me. So yeah, Favreau, Filoni, like whoever, if you're listening, all your Imperials, they got to have sideburns and British accents. Otherwise I'm out. Okay. So there we go.
That's sad because now every time there's a Star Wars show or movie that's gonna be releasing, I'm gonna
Yeah.
look for sideburns. I'm gonna be like, "Yep, they messed up. They didn't listen to
It,
Tom."
it it's so funny how quickly it pulls me out of the movie. I swear to God, it's so weird. But yeah, every
Plus, it
once in a
was
while there'll be someone on like Mandalorian or whatever, and he's like got like a bad guy with an American accent. I'm like, wait a minute, like,
that's funny. Now I'm gonna definitely be looking for sideburns.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, everybody's got like sideburn bingo. It's like you're checking them off as you see them and stuff like that.
Now, you are part of the company Regal Robot, and a lot of my viewers probably do know about your company, but if you can further explain what is Regal Robot all about?
Oh, we are about creating really unique collectibles that have just a really authentic feel and coming up with unexpected things that you probably didn't know you needed. um, we started off doing really like just interesting and different decor and even furniture stuff like the famous Han Solo and carbonite desk and the Millennium Falcon flying through the asteroid field as a coffee table, things that are ridiculous like a dewback as a sofa. We
That photo is
started
cool.
as effects people and restoration artists and sculptors and things like that, and brought that effects sensibility to what we were doing with the licensed stuff with Lucasfilm and doing really, really weird and interesting decor. And on the collectible side, that's really where my passion lies. That's where we're taking doing things like life-size busts, life-size Chewbacca statues, 7.5 foot tall. We're doing replicas of all the concept maquettes that were made for Return of the Jedi, which is this wonderful deep cut art, this stuff that you know is just to the left of the screen. It's the thing, that the spark that generated the characters we all love and the creatures that made Star Wars and Empire and Return of the Jedi and the prequels all so special. Um, and we love diving into that. We love bringing in the people that worked on the movies wherever we can. To me, the heroes of the movie, like Luke Skywalker is great, Han Solo is fantastic, but to me, the heroes are Phil Tippett and Rick Baker and Stuart Freeborn and all of these people behind the scenes who made Star Wars real for us by making amazing creatures or models or sets or figuring out how to do special effects that had never been done before and stuff like that. Those people were my idols growing up. I'm happy to call. I'm honored to call a bunch of them friends now, and really just so happy that we get to involve so many of them in the stuff we're doing. So, that's maybe a good summary of Regal. I'm not sure,
That
but
was an
what people could
amazing
do is
summary.
go to regalrobot.com. It says it on the thing there, right? Like just go there, but put .com on the end, and you can flip through the site and you see all the stuff we do. And then there's also Indiana Jones stuff, which I completely forgot about because it's late, folks. We mentioned that, right? Yeah.
See, that was one of the things that drew me to your company. Like I can buy stuff from like Sideshow and stuff like that, and it's cool. But I genuinely love that you guys paid a lot of attention to creatures like the
Yeah.
maquettes. The maquettes are
Thanks.
great.
Thank
And
you.
and that's one of my favorite things like that I love watching in films. I love the creatures. I
Yeah.
love the characters that are not really popular, but for some reason there's something about them that stands
Right.
out.
Yeah.
And Rick Baker is probably
Oh,
one of my idols when it comes to creatures.
same.
Him
Yeah.
doing the wolf from
Oh,
what is
American
it?
Werewolf.
American Werewolf.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Every time I see it on film, I'm just like, "Oh, Rick Baker
Yeah.
created this."
It's
Um,
It's
it
insane when you look at like all of the stuff he's done over the years. I mean, the guy doesn't have enough. He'd have to sculpt himself a bunch of arms just to hold all the Oscars he won, right?
mhm.
You know, um, but you look through all of the work, and just there is a consistency in quality to the
Mhm.
work he did. The and whether that was the people he brought on and whatever else, to where once the shop got really big, and but he's picking people like Steve Wang, he's picking people like Matt Rose, he's bringing in these brilliant sculptors, these brilliant painters, these wonderful artists to, and I chose two out of many, many people that work there. So, apologize to anybody who I left off. But there is um, recognizing strong design and is a separate talent from creating it, and he had both. And when you look at the early stuff, the things he's creating and the amount of character he's getting out of things that are like, if you take um even just his early rubber masks and stuff he was making in the 70s, like
Mhm.
they all have this amazing character to them. Um his ability to sculpt things that popped was so good, and that's all over American Werewolf. He sculpted that wolf in this very extreme sort of facial expression, so that when you saw it for a split second, you got a read on it and you knew it was ferocious, you knew it was terrifying. When
It's
you
still to
look
this day my favorite werewolf transformation of all time.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think I've seen a couple films and it's
No,
still to
nothing
this
touches
day,
it.
nothing touches it.
Yeah.
It's
And it's
amazing.
funny, the Rob Bottin, his protege at the time, did The Howling, and it's a very um, similarly achieved transformation,
Mhm.
but it's edited very differently. It's shot a bit differently, and I really think that Landis and Baker were just a magic combination on that transformation. I actually took a friend of mine who had never seen the movie, which is weird because like, why was he my friend at that point? But whatever, we'll give him a pass. But somehow he had managed to escape seeing this movie, and they were doing a screening last year at a cinema arts center nearby, and it was we went, and so this was his first time, and he went in thinking like, all right, well, this is 1981, it's not going to hold up, it's going to look clunky and rubbery or whatever, and he left. He was like, that held up, that was amazing. It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. It is, you know, it's never been topped. CG could never top it, in my opinion. I don't know.
No.
If
I
or if
I
it
just
can,
watched
I've yet to see it.
I recently just watched Monster Squad and they show the werewolf transformation there too. And I looked at that one and I was like, yeah, I was like, no, I was like, I thoroughly enjoy the movie. I think it's
That is
great.
a really fun movie, though.
It
Yeah.
is a very fun movie. We finished watching it and I looked at Greg and I was just like, I really enjoyed watching this again. I was like, as an adult, I was like, this
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah,
But I
it
said to him, I go,
strangely holds up.
I was like, the werewolf transformation. I was like, yep, it doesn't top anything.
No, no, but that's it. I mean, Baker is, you know, he's the top. I don't, I every, we all have our list of guys and girls out there that we look up to and things like that. For me, even as a kid, he was always the top,
The top.
and hasn't changed. And I got to restore that original wolf years ago, and that was how I got to know him, was after that, and just feel super lucky. And um, it was one of those rare times where it's like, okay, kids, do meet your heroes. It's like,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, but also the just to like do that little bit of like helping to keep some of his work around. Like we've gotten to work on over the years, um a lot of Baker pieces, a lot of stuff from Gremlins 2, stuff from Harry and the Hendersons, Lothar from Rocketeer, the Rondo Hatton looking guy.
Yeah.
um oh gosh, a bunch of stuff from Greystokes and Planet of the Apes stuff. Like we've had a lot of Baker Studio stuff come through through our studio, either for restoration or display or whatever, and it just always is. I've seen background masks from the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes movie that were done at Rick's shop that would be hero foreground makeups in any other movie. You know what I mean? Like the quality on the mask, the quality of the sculpts, the paint, every hair hand punched, even on a background mask. Like it's crazy the
Wow.
standards that guy had, and still has, I should say.
Yeah, because I follow him on Instagram and
Oh,
he's constantly posting artwork and
yeah.
he's been going through this phase. So I'm a huge Universal Monsters fanatic. and
Same.
he's been going through this phase where he's been posting drawings, and he's been doing every Universal monster, and I'm just like, ugh. And I repost him every time, and I'm just like, no one can touch Rick Baker. I was
No,
like,
it's so
it,
good, and it's like it doesn't matter the medium. He did some stuff in paper mache years ago. Uh, like what I love is like he retired and then he just went back to playing. You know, he
yeah,
just turned into the kid in his bedroom making monsters again, and like that makes me so happy to see
hmm
this. And like the artwork that he's putting out there, it's on Instagram all the time. If anybody's out there, go
beautiful,
follow him. It's the Rick Baker on Insta. It's so good all the time. And it doesn't matter the medium. It's the artist. It's the hands. It's the brain. It's the eyes. It is not, whether he's using clay, when he's doing digital, he's done stuff and, in 3D and ZBrush and stuff that's equally amazing. Like it really is just like, it's the artist, not the medium.
yeah.
And it's amazing to watch that come through.
Rick, if you're watching this, just know that I genuinely love you. I've told there's a
Same.
so I
Yeah.
live two I live 2 hours away from Orlando, and there's a convention that they have twice a year. It's called Spooky Empire,
Oh yeah.
and it's all dedicated to like horror movies and everything. I keep telling the owners every time, I was like, guys, you need to bring Rick
Oh my
Baker to
God.
this. I
Yeah.
was like, so many fans would lose their mind. They
Yeah.
would pay. I was like, like this weekend they've got Danny Elfman is going to be there for
Oh
one
wow.
day. Yeah. And it's just like, guys, you guys need to get like
Rick's
sculptors. Like,
Rick's a tough get. I don't know.
yeah,
It really is one of those things where I've been to Monsterpalooza when he's been there,
I want to go
and
there so
like
bad.
it's genuinely tough for him to even walk the floor. You know, there's like it's also there's a couple of guys at Monsterpalooza who happen to have long gray hair that they put in a ponytail, and like I think it's tough for them to walk the floor because I've seen a lot of times where one of them will go by and you'll hear a whole crowd go like, and then you look, it's like, wait a minute, that's no, hold on, but
It's
um,
too funny.
but yeah, it is. It's yeah. I don't envy him because I know he wants to go and enjoy a show like that, but it's got to be hard. Like,
Oh
cause
yeah.
it's yeah, as especially at that show, like everyone there is just such a super fan of his work. It's got to be really tough for him.
Now, were you always since a kid, did you always wanted to be in this industry?
Oh yeah, yeah. What's fun is um I was never like a snob about it, for lack of a better word. I am definitely, I definitely don't have that. Pardon my microphone. I don't have that like snob thing in me. I am like so low class with everything. But even as a kid, it was like I want to be a part of that. Was my mindset, not I needed to do this or I needed to do that or I had to work here or I had to work there. It was I want to be a part of it. I want to make cool things. And and that openness really gave me a lot of opportunity over the years. And it allowed me to explore a lot of stuff, whether that was, making props or puppets or building guitars and things like that I do as well, or exploring whether music or 3D computer graphics and 2D computer graphics at the time because the computers sucked back when I was growing up. I was just always obsessed with just making things,
Mhm.
physical, practical, digital, furry, wrinkly, whatever. Um, I probably got the most out of making things like puppets, like Muppet type stuff, or making rubber masks. That really, like if I had to pick one thing, making rubber masks is a lot of fun for me. I like sculpting like creatures that are like full scale,
Mhm.
and uh, and I love I love the way the clay works. I started out with oil based clay and I struggled with it. In high school, I worked with regular water clay, which never worked really great for what I was doing. And I My poor teachers, they're like sitting here trying to like teach kids in the class to make an ashtray. And I'm going like, I want to make that anvil headed looking alien that pops up in the cantina and looks around and has the glittery eyes. And they're like, I don't know,
You're like,
like,
dude,
and I
just
want to
make
make
the
a mold and turn it
ashtray.
into a latex mask. And they're like, do you know how to do that? And I'm like, I read a book that I think says Tom Savini has a book. Let me figure this out, like, I must have just been such a pain in their asses because I would just stay after and like steal studio time and just try and make things like this. And I, for me though, I eventually got into wed clay, maybe 25 years ago, a little more, and um, that really clicked for me. It was somebody had even told me. It was a friend of mine on the RPF. I think it was Russ Lukic, who's an effects sculptor. He's been in the industry for years, done some amazing work. Um, he, I think he said like some of my early stuff is like, it looks like you're fighting your clay if you tried wed. And um and he was right. Like as soon as I did it, it was like the fight was gone and the clay was working with me. And it was like it does this thing where it starts off mushy and you can like slap a lot of it on fast. And then it gets a little tougher when you can make your forms. And then it gets really tough as it starts drying out and you can carve in the light, the real fine detail. And it
Oh,
like
wow.
it comes along with you on the journey. And that to me is always really special. So yeah, if I had to pick like one thing that would be the like if I just had to do one thing, sculpting monster heads would probably be it. And it has been something I've loved doing ever since I was like, as little as I can remember.
That's awesome. So you basically turned something that's been like a passion of yours since you were a child into like a reality.
It yeah, pretty random and lucky, I think, to be
Yeah.
able to do that. I it helps to be I was going to say slightly obsessive, but I'm going to say a lot obsessive. It helps to have the collector mindset because you know I I make stuff or I made stuff because I wanted to have stuff. It's like if I could have gone out and bought the devil guy mask that Rick Baker made for the cantina, well, technically he made it in 1973 as a Halloween mask and used it in a Bob Burns Exorcist themed Halloween show and then reused it in the cantina. There's your tip for the day, folks. But I always wanted that mask. And it was one of these things like if I could go out, if someone was selling a copy of that and I could buy it at the time, I probably would have. And I would have been really happy to have it on my shelf. But because it wasn't there, I had to sculpt it myself and it gave me something to do. So, so many of the early things I sculpted were because I just wanted to have them. I wanted to see them on my shelf and, get up close to them the way that, feel like I had a little piece of the movie in my hands. Um, and knowing that feeling really, really informs what we do at Regal and my other company and stuff too. But when we're making collectibles, like that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about that moment, the person who gets it opens it and holds it in their hands, and what that feels like. Because I, with Tom Spina Designs going for now almost 20 years, we have been doing restoration of original film props. We've been doing displays for original film props, making custom mannequins for costumes and things like that, in addition to all the sculpture and effects work and all the other stuff we do. But there's a feeling you get when you put your hands on an original prop that was in a film or when you see it up close. I've seen tons of rubber masks out there and monsters and things people have made. But when I would go to my friend Bob Burns's house and see, an original Cantina band member or the original Muff Tack costume in person, there's a very different feeling you get seeing the original. There's a magic to them. There's a chunkiness. There's an imperfectness to them that you don't get when you see a replica, or especially, and this is no offense to licensed collectibles, but licensed collectibles are genuinely sanitized. They're made to be very, very nice.
Yeah.
And I don't like nice. I like real.
Yeah.
And that's what I want in these collectibles. And that's what we push for with our stuff. And sometimes you've got to smooth over some things. Maybe something is literally unfinished on a piece, like the Wampa puppet, where the back of the real puppet is completely unfinished. I couldn't put that out as a collectible with just raw foam rotting in the back or something like that. Like we needed to put hair on the back of that. But we made the rest of it as authentic as we could to that real puppet so that when someone looked at it and someone had it in their hands, they would feel like I felt when we saw that original in the archives, when we went up to it and got this close and started to go, what's going on with those eyes? Because and this is one of my favorite things in the whole world. We got to that puppet and the I had seen it in books. I had seen it in a friend of mine had taken video of it at a convention, not a convention, but a prop display that was in 95 in Yerba Buena, which is one of the few times that thing was toured. And so I had an idea of it and you see it pretty close in the movie. But seeing it in real life and seeing it like literally this close and getting up there with lights and magnifiers and all this stuff, we looked and the eyes have this reflective blue pupil and a black iris and this sort of amber
Mhm.
gel around them or whatever. And it's a type of taxidermy eye. And it's a really unusual choice. And it's not what anybody expects. Everybody just assumes they're black eyes. And when we could, and even from this far away, it looks like he's just got black eyes. And so for our replica, we could have just done that. Just paint the eyes black, put some gloss on them, done. But that's not who we are. So we had to go and have custom taxidermy eyes made to match that style of eye that Phil put in there for that puppet that he made for the movie. And then that's what's used on our replicas. And I'll bet there are people who have our replica, who have it in their house, who put it on their shelf and love it, but still
And did
never
not
got
know.
enough light into the eye to see that. And so anybody, if you've got one at home and you haven't done it yet, take your phone, turn the flashlight on, get way up close to this thing, and you'll see. And it's this wonderful detail that to me helps with that feeling that I'm trying to give people when they get these things.
So I I own one maquette from you guys, which was
Okay.
the Nime Num.
Oh, nice.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
But the one thing that like blew my mind, and I only got to see this during live stream because I haven't been to Sean's house yet, but the Chewbacca bus.
Oh,
Wow.
I
I will do zooms with him and he'll
yeah.
have that thing in the background. And I'm just always like, dude, like move your camera. I was like, it looks so real. I was like, it's so genuinely creepy how realistic it
Hey.
looks. And I tell him all the time, I was like, I would be so scared if that thing was in my collectible room. And I walk in and that's the first thing I see because it's massive. And like
It
I remember
is.
I remember when you guys announced it and I was like, holy crap. I was like, that thing is so cool.
Thank you. It's one of these things where I this is the obsessive nature coming through, right? Like I love that kind of challenge. Chewbacca is one of the hardest characters to recreate. Um and we had to pull everything that we could into that to make that work. And I'm not trying to do this to pat ourselves on the back, but the challenge behind the scenes on making a good and now really repeatable Chewbacca where we can make a run of them like this was really really tough. But we had a really good head start in that. um, Prior to starting Regal, we had done we had refurbished one of the tour suits for Lucasfilm, and the tour suits were done by probably Don Bees and Danny Wagner, maybe Nelson Hall. There was somebody else that worked on them, and I'm losing the name, but they were done side by side with one of the Return of the Jedi masks. So it was very close in how it was built, even in how the mechanisms were made. We then, during our restoration work for the archives back in the early 2000s, the early 2010s, got to see a lot of stuff up close. And one of the things we got to spend a lot of time with was one of the original Chewie masks.
Oh wow.
Again, I think it was the Return of the Jedi mask. And so there was a lot of information we had from that. We pulled a lot of that into the tour suits we were working on. We then got to make new tour suits when Force Awakens came out. We made one, a New Hope style head, and then a full suit in a Force Awakens style for them. And I through collectors because knowing I collect a lot of stuff that's actually used in the movies. Maybe not a lot of stuff these days, but I'm lucky to have a bunch because I got into this before the hobby got very expensive. But uh, and knowing a bunch of people that were around when Stuart Freeborn initially retired and found homes for a lot of his stuff through the folks at Prop Store, I knew Gus Lopez had one of the original skins from Chewbacca, and Gus was good enough to let us scan that,
Oh
and it was
wow.
an unfinished skin, so it had, I think it had some paint on it, but it didn't have, and it was on a form that Stewart had, a biscuit foam form, so it was still in the right shape. It was damaged in some places, but it was in shape, not like a loose skin that had wrinkled up. And so that became the foundation for the sculpt for our piece, which is an amazing head start. So what we wound up doing was we took that scan, we output it at full scale, we made a mold off of that, and then did a clay press, and then in clay repaired the damage to it, and then altered the mouth to be slightly open to allow the teeth to show. And for the current bust, I went in and hand sculpted, Peter's eyes inside,
Wow.
which for Chewbacca really is the defining characteristic. It's,
Yeah.
it's snout and teeth and hair and all of this. But if you don't have Peter's eyes, it's just not going to work. Um, and so that was the real focus for me on, when we were doing this first bust for Regal, which, and the same head sculpt carries over to the current one, was sculpting in Peter's eyes, making sure that we captured that. And then from there, I absolutely obsessed, like, oh, like a conspiracy board, but with Chewbacca hair. It's just red yarn and different mixes, and like, add more of this, question mark, too much brown, question mark. It's like I spent way too much time making sure we got the fur colors right and the blends right and the length and the feel of it and all of that. We're not using yak hair. There's some reasons for that, but we're using a monocrylic, which is basically a faux yak. We're texturizing it to give it that yak feel. But for me, it's all about getting the right color mix, and it's really challenging because it's the original suit is mixed by hand. So it's not necessarily consistent. It's not, each suit and mask is probably a little different than the others. And so, having to, and then it's not consistent even on the face. It's not like one color on there. You're doing different blends in different places. And we worked all of this stuff out. I, as like I said, obsessed over Chewbacca down to literally each hair. So, but yes, thank you for the compliment on that obsession, and it makes me very happy to know.
No, it's a phenomenal piece. I remember the day that Sean got it, and he FaceTimed us and was like, dude, he was like, hop on StreamYard, I gotta show you something. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, that thing is huge. And he's like, I know. He was like, I don't know where I'm gonna put it. He was like, but he's like, I had to get it. But how long, you describe the process of what it takes to make something like that. How
Yeah.
long did that actually take?
Oh, well, it was spread out over a number of projects.
Okay.
So, it's hard to put a single number on it because we learned a lot about the hair when we were doing the tour suits. We learned a lot about, what the shape of the face and the skin and all of that stuff on that project as well. The I would say it was probably about a 6 month period that we worked on for the
Oh wow.
first bust we did, which was it was like a head and collar.
Okay.
Now, pardon me, now what we offer is a head and shoulders bust. It's got a little bit of the bandolier, it's a little bigger, just to make it even more imposing, right? but
Yeah.
um, the but yeah, that just doing that head and collar alone, it was probably a good 6 month process of, making sure we had the sculpt right, getting our approvals, making sure we had the paint right, figuring out, with the teeth, we took castings off of original teeth, which was great as a starting point, but then having to refine that stuff and make it work within the context of putting this thing together, sculpting up. I mean, silly things like, you've got to sculpt the top of his mouth, the upper palate and his tongue and stuff like that. And we wanted to do it in the way the mask was, not the way you would
Hmm.
do it if it was a bust. So even on these non-functional, it's not like an opening mouth kind of thing or anything like that. Or, I mean, we do now the roaring head too, where the mouth is permanently open. But if you
Yeah.
look at that one where the mouth is open, the back of his throat does not look the way it would look if you were sculpting a realistic thing. It looks the way the mask looks when Peter opens the mouth wide. It's got these two little holes in the back, it's got these little flaps on the side, and it's the sort of thing that you don't even think about. But if we sculpted it right with a proper throat and all this other stuff, it just would look wrong, So we want people to have that feeling like when they take it out of the box. I want them to feel like they're getting the prop, like they're
Yeah.
getting that thing off the screen and not just the character.
I like that. So when you guys, make the final product, are you guys having to get approval from Lucasfilm? Like, hey, this is, spot on. You can now sell it.
Yeah, it's I wish it were just that, but yeah, no, it's a multi-step process with
Okay.
Lucasfilm and Disney. But we're very, very lucky. Lucasfilm is who does our product development approvals.
Okay.
There are other approvals that go through Disney because of contracts and things like that, because they obviously own the IP. Um, but Lucasfilm is great. We work with a wonderful partner over there who totally gets what we're doing, and uh, really, really helps elevate what we're doing, and build upon the stuff that we're working on. And he's very trusting in terms of our level of research. He knows we know our stuff. He knows that if um, whenever there's a question on something, he knows we're going to have receipts. It's like,
Yeah.
well, wait a minute. Why does the back of his throat look that way? He knows I'm going to have 100 pictures to show why we did what we did. But it's great. He gets it. He totally understands what we're trying to achieve, and that prop and feel and stuff like that, and that authenticity that we're trying to bring to it. And he loves it just the way we do. And so it's a process, but it's not.
A difficult one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not daunting. It
Okay.
definitely is. Sometimes down to the wire because of just the timing on stuff, and like having to get samples to them to get approvals and things like that sometimes, or having just, man, it feels, every time we have an on sale date for something, it feels like it comes out of nowhere at us. It's like we'll have something planned. We're like, okay, that'll get released in July. It's January. Oh, it's July. Like it's
Yeah.
that. And all of a sudden we're going like, oh crap, we have to get this one last approval, or we need the COA approved, or we need the art for the box approved, or the label, or whatever. Like little things just really sometimes get hung up. And so yeah, there's always a little bit of scramble, but I at least know we've got someone that understands what we're doing, which is so nice, because I've had it the other way and it's not as good.
Now, do you have a specific piece that you will say like that's my ultimate favorite one that we have released?
It's whatever we're working on right now at the time someone asks me. I will say this. So usually I say, it's hard. They're all,
I
God, that Wampa
know.
puppet's super special to me. That was one of my favorite props. It was one of the first things I wanted to see the first time I got to go to the archives, maybe 15 years ago now, or whatever that was. Um, Chewbacca is a big favorite for me. The hollow chess set to me maybe feels like a big achievement because of how much we had to do for that. because each one of those was a full figure with all these different details that we had to get right, even working with scans and with Phil Tippett's team and stuff like that we were working with at the time.
I think the Rancor that you guys released was absolutely
yeah,
beautiful.
the puppet scale Rancor.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. That said, when I talk about the feel, so we were at the archives relatively recently, maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago now. We've been working on the Effantmon maquette, which is coming out Tuesday the 24th.
Yeah. That thing is huge. I saw Gabe's video.
It is big.
I wasn't expecting, like, when he did his reel and he like lifted it up, I was like,
yeah,
it's a big ass maquette.
Yeah, like, wow. It is. So technically, I think the Tauntaun maquette is ever so slightly taller. It's like maybe a 1/4 inch taller, but it doesn't have the mass that this thing has.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we had done on a previous trip, we had brought one of the paint masters to double check our paint against the real thing, which is always a really cool experience. But we didn't have the cloak done at that point. And so this was the first time going back since we had done the cloak. And it was funny. I looked at a bunch of the maquettes on this trip for some last minute details on a few other ones. But I re-looked at Low Overhead, which is the Joe Johnston, the Wall Cabashite character, which Joe Johnston sketched, not just sketched, sculpted. I looked at Yuzum, which we recently released. I looked at Effantmon, and I looked at one other, which is actually probably our next release. And I stopped dead in my tracks, and I texted Max at the studio to be like, tell everybody on the paint machine, the paint team, that they are doing a kick-ass job. Because I swear, if you put our Yuzum on that shelf at the archives, if you put our Low Overhead on that shelf at the archives, and didn't tell them you would swap them, they would never know. Like they were so close. They felt just right. And it really is like, again, it's not even like looked right. It felt right. They looked aged. They looked, they had the layers of paint. They weren't just like, oh, he's brown. It's like, no, he's like 6 layers of paint to create the look that thing has. The fur on Yuzum is really, really close. It was just really cool. And with Effant, it was, seeing him again after having worked out the cloak and it took us forever to find that fabric. But after finding that fabric, it was so gratifying. And when I came back, I was like, Effant might be my favorite maquette now. And like, he never was high on my list. I thought he was cool, but once we got him all done with that, coarse hair and the just all the distressing on the cloak, and the cloak pattern is super unusual. It is not it was not what I thought it was initially. We went there the first time and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's an up and over and it's got a roll here and a stitch there and that's it. And then when we start looking at it, and of course it's not easier. Thanks, Phil. It's much harder, but it's like, oh no, that's okay. That's like 4 or 5 pieces. Why is it so many pieces, Phil? What are you doing? And he's got wraps around his wrists that they're all weathered up, and he's got, the edge of the hood, and then there's hand stitching, and then there's a run of machine stitching that just must have been from whatever Phil used for the cloak originally. It's just wild how much goes into it. And we put all of that into ours. So it just if you go and you find ours and you pick it up, I felt the same way holding ours that I felt holding the real one. And that to me is the goal. When we can do that, man, that feels good.
That's awesome. That's what is it? It's a nice pat.
Yeah. One of these.
No, and
it's honestly, it's to everybody in the shop, because it goes. It's us obviously directing and researching. It's Christian who did all the digital cleanup on the scan and then figured out, with me, how all this stuff had to integrate and how we had to, because you scan something with a cloak, you don't get what's under the cloak, you get the cloak, So we had to figure out what's going on under there. What's under the real one is a little weird because it's foam and flexible and it's got wire, and he's also he's kind of tilted forward now over the years, and so his hands are in a different position than they used to be. So we had to take all the elements and take vintage photographs and pull everything back where it was, and like sort of basically turn the hands of time back on this thing. Um, and so, I mean, yeah, in a way, you're getting Effatman even better than he is at the archives right now, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and one of the coolest things that I will say about you guys is that I love, yes, you do Star Wars stuff, but some of the Indiana Jones stuff you guys have been releasing, like I'm friends with Alex Arnold, he's got a big, Indiana Jones collection. I love
Yeah.
it. And some
He's
of the stuff that you guys, yeah, he's like a big kid.
he's the best. He's so fun.
Yeah.
And he's very genuine too. Like
Yeah.
I could see where, you know, if maybe somebody only sees his videos, they have a certain impression of him. But I've been very lucky enough to meet him in person and hang out a bit, and just what a warm, nice guy. And
Yeah.
I feel very happy to know him. And it's so cool seeing his take on our stuff when he gets it. It's just
I know he's
like,
like a little kid. I love
yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah, it's like Christmas.
I got to recently meet him for the first time. Like we've been friends for like a year and a half, and I
Uh-huh.
got to meet him at a preview weekend at Epic Universe.
Oh
And
gosh.
I was just like, dude, and he was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, "How random." I was like, "I didn't even know you were here." And and it was just like, like we have known each other for years and it was just
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, his videos of the stuff that he gets from you guys is just amazing. And it's some of the scans and like some of the future stuff that I see that you guys are going to be releasing with
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. It's very nostalgic. Like I
Thanks.
love the Ark of the Covenant. That thing is
Oh,
gorgeous. I saw
the
George Medina's
the
video
the
on that.
angels. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that was it's funny that was a challenging one in a couple of different ways, but yeah, those they're called cherubim rather. I always called
Mhm.
them archangels for, growing up. So that's always what they are in my head. But we've got a few of them at the shop right now, and it's like I go through the lobby and I just see this gold gleam coming off the corner. It's like, oh, what is that?
Kind
Um,
of like when Indiana's like looking at the cup at the
right,
top.
yeah, yeah, and you see
And
the
it's all
reflection. Yeah. But it's been cool going through the indie stuff. Indie is obviously, anybody who's a Lucasfilm fan, anybody who's a Star Wars fan, it's like indie is always neck and neck, right? It's like Star
Yeah.
Wars and indie, and then for me, Ghostbusters and Young Frankenstein, and then like the
Mhm.
Universals and the Hammer horrors and all that get in there, and it gets crowded after that. But like indie, Star Wars, Ghostbusters, really like that top three is pretty tight for me.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, one of my favorite. So I, you always ask, what is it? It's the most recent thing, right? Like, but did you see the thing we announced like earlier this week? The
For
teaser we put
Indiana
up?
Jones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
saw that.
if anybody isn't already in the Regal Robot Facebook group, could just look up Regal Robot group or Regal Robot fan group or showcase on Facebook. You'll find the fan group. Go join us. It's a really fun gang of people. Alex Arnold's there going like, whoa, all the time whenever we do
Yeah.
something new. But it's so
You get
I
also
had
you get exclusive drops of stuff that's coming
yeah,
out
we
before
we
they
definitely
fully announce it.
we give a lot of teasers that people about stuff that's coming out. There's contests where we're giving stuff away. We've given away like
Mhm.
APs of things and stuff like that. So yeah, it's totally worth going if you're not already there. But yeah, this latest Indiana Jones drop is going to go on the 1st of July. um Indiana Jones's fictional birthday, by coincidence, not on purpose. But it to me represents one of the coolest things about India, and that is that it has a creature element to it. It
Mhm.
has a creature effects element to it. There's a horror element to each of the indie movies. There's the melting faces, the banquet sequence, the rapid aging at the end of Last Crusade. Even the rats and snakes and all of that have some effect stuff going on. So for me, the opportunity to take our creature work and bring it to the indie side was really exciting and something that I had never seen done. And that's the other thing. It's like these are properties that have been around for, for Star Wars almost 50 years, for Indy 45 years. And uh, fan communities have made a lot of stuff. And so, how do you, as a small company, as a licensee, come up with things that people haven't done? Or maybe, so for me, it's about we either have to do something someone hasn't done, or that something hasn't been done right yet, or maybe hasn't been done as well as we could, or with the lineage that we could, where maybe we have access to the original prop or whatever, or um, maybe at a price that hasn't been done before, that kind of thing. But so for us, we're trying to approach each of these to make sure we have something to offer. And I also like to do the unexpected. I like to make sure that we're coming up with stuff that keeps people surprised and engaged and fresh and, interested. And even if it means, this piece that we're doing, which I think I've teased, but I don't think I've ever even said what it is yet. If you're listening at home and you don't know what it is, I'm sorry, too bad. No. So what we're doing
Or go
is,
on the Facebook group page and you can
that's
see it.
right. You've got to go there and find
Or
out. Don't give away
join
right.
their mail list, and you'll get a alert on your email, like
True.
I'm
Yeah.
constantly
That's very
always
important.
getting. And
Thank you. You should be in charge of this. Yeah, this is good. I'm terrible. No. But yeah, so what we've done is taken the end scene of Last Crusade, where Donovan drinks from the wrong grail. He chose poorly and ages rapidly. And that was done with a series of effects heads. It was 2 animatronic heads, a stop motion head, and then another rig that was a skeleton that gets thrown against the wall. And we took the second phase animatronic head, and that still exists at the archives, 3D scan that, and are making a replica bust based on that head. So you've got him pained, mouth open, like kind of screaming. Eyes have just sunken into his head. His hair has grown rapidly, so he's got this mane of gray hair coming out the back. His jacket
this is like the crypt
has
keeper
dust
from like
on it.
Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, he definitely has a Crypt Keeper vibe. And it's really, really fun. It's really cool. It's very faithful to the prop, but also a little bit massaged to make sure that it's true to what's on screen too. So on screen, the lighting is a bit darker. He looks a little grayer. So we toned his color back a little bit to make sure that it didn't look like, oh, why is he so pink or whatever, like we want it to feel like you pulled it off the screen. The other interesting thing is the hair on the stage 2 bust is there's very little hair on that bust. But during the effect, they do a transition between the phase 1 bust and the phase 2 bust, but they keep the phase 1 hair. So that for us was like, oh, okay, so we've got to keep the fuller hair in the back, because otherwise it would look wrong. It wouldn't look like how it looked on screen. So it's a really cool piece. It has that authenticity that we're going for. Like it definitely feels like the real prop if you've ever gotten to see it in person, which I guess a lot of folks haven't, but it's in some books and things, I'm sure. And there's some behind the scenes footage of it, which is really cool. But for us, it was like, how can we take that, the life-size busts we're doing, like the Wampas and Chewbacca's and Tauntauns and CZ3 and Tusken Raiders, stuff that we do for Star Wars. How can we bring some of that to Indy without doing like, a Harrison Ford bust or something ridiculous like that? And so this was, I think, a really cool way to do it. It is technically a prop replica because it's based on this animatronic prop. It's in the archive collection because we scanned it off of the original prop in the archives. It has lineage to the real thing used in the movie. It's all those things that I love, and it's a creature thing. So it's really fun. I'm so curious how it's going to go when we release it. It's been received well. Like everybody seems to like it. But
I honestly, when I saw it,
Yeah.
I started laughing because I was like, I met Julian Glover. I go, and this is gonna be the funniest thing ever to
Yeah.
see. Because
I
I'm
got I got to meet him years ago. And I had it was at Celebration maybe 2, I think, or something like that. And when I went to the show, I had photoshopped up. It wasn't even Photoshop at the time. It was like, some whatever the hell program. But I had photoshopped up like it was a combo image of him as Veers and Donovan. So that like, because I really wanted to like cover that ground. Because he's so good as Donovan in that movie.
yes, he's so
Um,
he plays a bad guy so good.
he really does. Um, but yeah, and we got him involved in this, and he signed the plaques to go with this. So it's a signature edition, like we did with Paul Freeman for the Belloc staffs, and
Mhm.
uh, it's going to be 89 pieces to go with the number, the year of the film, 1989.
Okay.
Um, I don't think I'm ready to announce the price yet. I don't know if we've got that public, so I'll hold off. It might be public by the time this airs. Go to the Regal Robot fan group; you'll find out. I think
Yes.
this is, pardon me, I think this is the first mention of 89 pieces. But it's uh, we think that's the right number based on where the price probably has to be and the type of piece it is. It's very unique. It's very different. It's not like a Grail cup or one of these things where I think there's hundreds and hundreds that'll be out there. But the people that get this are going to get something incredibly rare and unique and interesting and very, very different from anything I've ever seen done. It's that to me is the coolest thing. Like when we can find something that even fans haven't done, that's when you've got a really special collectible. And that's when you've got something where years from now, people are going to look back and go like, man, oh, I should have gotten one of those. It's
Yeah.
like, it was on the site for 2 days and I didn't grab one. What was wrong with me? Like, that's what's going to happen on this. I know it.
I'm excited to see Alex's reaction
Yeah.
for it.
So yeah, he private messaged me when he first saw it and was like, suitably enthusiastic. I was
Yeah.
like, as you might expect from him.
Oh,
But
yeah.
he was just shocked that that was what we chose to do in a good way, and he's
Yeah.
so excited about it. He's like, I never thought I'd see this. This is amazing. So he will be doing a video of one. His is actually it was packed up to go out. So I'm really curious to see what his video looks like and how that
Oh,
goes. So
boy. Yeah, I'm excited to watch this.
yeah.
Now
Anybody who doesn't buy it on day one will just like, you chose
yeah,
poorly.
you
Just
guys
there you
gotta
go.
buy it on day
Just
one.
yeah.
So far you guys have just Star Wars and Indiana Jones as an
Mhm.
IP that you guys do stuff for. Is
Yeah.
there any possibility you guys are ever gonna dive into something else?
You say that like you know something. No,
No.
I will say this right now. No. Uh, Now, and by that I just mean like in the near future. No, we are not going to start doing something else. That said, well, I could probably say this. So there are definitely a few things I would love to do, different IPs, and uh, Disney keeps you very busy when you're a
Mhm.
licensee. Uh, right now, for the size of the company and the number of people we have, and the amount that I am personally juggling in particular, it would be tough for us to add another IP. However, you know, you go back 5 years ago, or well, no, I guess it's a little more than that, maybe 8 years ago now. And there were days where it was 4 of us in the studio, or
Oh,
five
wow.
of us. Maybe maybe more like 10, 15 years ago. But either way, you go back to even back like 2011, there were times where it was 3 of us. It's amazing how drastically things have changed since then. And now we're, most days about 20 people in the studio and a bunch of people outside of the studio working on things for us. And now, you know, other outside production coming in to help us. And it's a lot to juggle, but it's interesting. And so, yeah, not right now. There's stuff I'd really love to do though. So never say never, because 15 years ago, I didn't think this would be happening. So, um, and then what we do have a few things that are not necessarily licensed, that are sort of off to the side, that are they're going to be really cool. I have we have a line coming out that's going to be it's literally like a Regal brand that's going to have some cool things in it that I think are going to be right up the alley of our collectors, and will bring them something they haven't seen before. So we'll see. That's I won't go any further into it, but we have so much in the works. We are constantly in a state of like riding a unicycle while spinning plates and juggling, and like just trying to keep all of the balls in the air, so to speak,
Yeah.
all at the same time, all the time, constantly. To the point where we have to make time for podcasts in the middle of the night.
Plus, you do podcasting yourself too, so it's like you're an extremely busy bee.
I try. I have fun chatting with folks, so I try to make a little time for it. Maybe once every couple of weeks to get on one of them. But it is busy bee is probably a good word for it. Yeah.
Now, I usually like to end the segment asking, if there's any advice for anybody out there that wants to get into the field that you're in,
Yeah.
what kind of advice would you?
So what I would say is this: it's interesting. I grew up in a very different time. Um, so the advice that I probably would give folks probably has changed a lot over the years. Um, but there's one constant, and that is, do things in a concise way. Uh, don't don't try and make a 2-hour movie. Make a good 2-minute movie. Do the absolute best you can, even if that means doing less. And I think it's actually even more important now as people's attention spans are shrinking. But you know, kids today, people today, kids today have advantages we didn't have. They have editing software on their phone that I would have killed for on a desktop, let alone a phone. So use what you have to the best of your ability, but come up with things that will engage people and hook their attention. And like I said, try and get them for like 2 minutes. If you can keep someone's attention solidly for 2 minutes with something, you can really showcase what you can do.
Mhm.
And uh, and if you can do it in an entertaining way, put a little twist ending or something like that on it. Make it fun. Leave them with something they have to think about, and that way, you know, when they've watched 20 reels of people's work, and some of them slogged on for 10 or 15 minutes and they tuned out or started answering emails or something like that. Yours was the one that they watched that was a minute and a half long, and they were connected the whole way, and it had this twist ending that made them go, oh, all right. You're going to be the one they remember. You probably will be the one that gets a call back. Maybe you get the job. And once your foot's in the door, then you can make yourself important, and um, you know, really show people what you can do. But in order to get there, you gotta get folks' attention, and with attention spans being short, there's my advice.
I like that. I know. I watch some things sometimes online, and like if it doesn't catch my attention within like 2 minutes, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
next.
Oh yeah.
Even
No,
with like
nowadays.
shows, movies.
Yeah. And now with like everybody in the reels slash shorts slash TikTok kind of thing, it's like if you're not grabbing people in the first 2 seconds of the thing, if you don't have some kind of hook at the beginning of your video, forget it. It's just like swipe, swipe, swipe.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what things are going to be like 20 years from now. Like you're going to have
I don't
a
want to
whole
know.
generation of people that like can't have a conversation because they're just like they're swiping on you. Like, no, go away. Hey, stop it. Like,
And you know what the thing is, what you said, I was talking about that the other day with a coworker, and I was telling her that I genuinely still like to pick up the phone and
uh-huh.
call my friends, have actual phone conversations,
What?
not,
You know, yeah.
yeah, not like, hey, what's up, texting,
Right.
like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still like to call. We still here at our house, we have a phone line.
Does it have the old coily cord on it? You got to like
No,
walk it into the other room.
I haven't plugged anything in, but it's still there. And
That's
like
great.
I
Yeah.
have the old school Ewok phone. And like occasionally I'm like, I kind of want to go buy the cord to go plug it in because in case like we ever lose power, the phone
Yeah, now
works.
you got something. Yeah.
I have a phone.
That's funny. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we're old
I
school. What
agree
can you
with you.
say?
Yeah, we're old school.
Take that, kids.
I still agree, I still want to have the real interaction with
Yeah.
people, not, just
An
based off of
actual
social
human
media.
connection? How dare you? You
I
know?
know, how dare me. Next thing you know, our human connections will be replaced by AI.
Oh no. Yeah. Probably not wrong.
No. But yeah, no, I agree with you with like with the attention span. Like I think, like how you said it with the TikToks and the reels. I think my most common thing that I like to look at is usually just food videos on TikTok. Being a collector and I love toys and anything sci-fi, the only thing in my algorithm on TikTok is all food videos.
it knows. Like
Yeah,
that's
no.
yeah.
It's like, all right, she's done with toys. Like,
Yeah.
let's just show
It's
her
like
food.
no, no, let's like we know what they really want. It's like yeah.
But yeah, um, I know that we can find you at Regal Robot on Instagram. I know that we
Yep.
can also find you on Tom Spina Designs
Yep.
as well, which
Yep.
you put out some pretty cool stuff on your personal page.
Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, uh, Twitter, Pinterest. We're all over the place.
Yeah. And I'll be putting everything down for you guys on the
Oh, thank you.
description.
Yeah.
And like how we stated before, you guys definitely need to join the Facebook group page. Even
Yeah.
if it's something that you guys don't want to purchase anything, but the Facebook group page is very informative. There's been a lot of stuff there that I like. Yes, I am a Star Wars fan. I'm knowledgeable with certain things. I'm not knowledgeable with everything. And genuinely, this Facebook group page, I've learned so much more about different creatures and different designs and sculpting and stuff like that just by not even asking questions, just reading the forums and the discussions. I've watched your interviews with some of the, designers, concept artists and everything. And it's a very informative channel.
Yeah,
So
it's fun
it
too.
is.
It's a really good group of folks. And yeah, the if on both company YouTube channels, the Tom Spina Designs YouTube and the Regal Robot YouTube, you can find interviews with a lot of these old monster makers and friends of mine that I just feel so lucky to get to talk to and share their stories. And oh gosh, yeah, those things are they're it just the to sit and listen to those guys is gold and girls because we got Judy and Jeannie Lauren on there and stuff too, and they're they're all so fun. Totally, if you're a creature person at all, if you're an effects person at all, hearing these people who were there at the beginning for these Star Wars movies, it's so good to hear. And yeah, the Regal ones we focus on the Star Wars stuff because that's where the license is. On the Tom Spina Designs one, I usually put the conversation up just basically raw, no edits, just full. Usually they're like an hour long, and when we get like there's guys like Ken Ralston on there and stuff, and Phil Tippett, and I could listen to those guys for hours. If I could make those 5 hours long, I would.
Yeah, like I'll be honest with you, some of those guys, they need to document all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, while we got them, like, let's, like,
yeah,
get all these stories. It's Light and Magic does a pretty good job, but it's so narrow in its focus, and I mean, that's I'm not knocking it. It's amazing. But, like, there's the creature side always gets the short end of the stick, in my opinion. I feel like they never go enough, go far enough into that stuff. So I love really picking their brains on techniques and methods and thought process and what went into this stuff and why you did, made certain choices. So yeah, if that stuff fascinates you, both of our YouTube channels, go enjoy them. If you like the videos, click like and make a comment. Tell us what you liked about it. Tell us who your favorite of the old ILM folks were. Let's get them all to fight for your approval.
Like a celebrity death match.
That would be great. Yeah, it's like in this corner is 6'6.5" Dennis Murin. Bing, 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 and he comes out and has to fight Phil Tippett.
Oh my gosh, that would be so funny. They like murder each
but
other.
oh my god! But
and
and Phil would have to be it would be stop motion, which is just perfect for Phil.
He'd morph into like a creature.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like some weird like id creature or something for like turn all dripping and brown and gross, like something out of Mad God. That would be amazing.
That's funny. Well, guys, it was an awesome time hanging out with Tom. We're definitely gonna be doing this again. But like I said, guys, everything is gonna be put down in the description. Make sure to harass all Regal Robot sites. Make sure to follow everything and be on the lookout for all their drops. Like I said, if you do follow them or if you subscribe to their channel, you will get confirmation emails. They'll send you when it's the next drops. They'll actually give you a list of things to look out for. So just make sure that you guys follow them. But
thanks
for logging on with me, Tom.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It was a fun chat.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and may the force be with you.
Bye.
Bye.